Welcome to this explainer. Speaking to you today as an oncology specialist, my ultimate goal is to fundamentally reframe how we think about, approach, and actually prevent cancer. For so many of us, especially as we get a little older, just hearing the word brings up this profound sense of helplessness, right? We kind of view it as this random, uncontrollable attack on our bodies. But today, we're going to peek under the hood at the real science of what's happening at a cellular level. And I promise you, by the end of our time together, you're going to see that your body is remarkably equipped to protect you. Prevention is a super active process, not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Just think about this fact for a second. Right now, literally, at this very moment, your body contains cells that have undergone precancerous changes. Crazy, right? As an oncology specialist, the number one fear I hear from patients is this dread of a sudden, uncontrollable alien invasion. But the reassuring, totally scientific truth is that precancerous cells aren't some rare exception. They are completely universal. Your body is constantly generating these aberrant cells. But here's the amazing part. It successfully identifies and fights them off every single day using a highly sophisticated, built-in molecular repair system. You are absolutely not defenseless.
All right, let's quickly look at our roadmap for today. First, a breakdown of cellular governance. Second, the 7 stages of progression. Third, your built-in defense system. Fourth, inhibiting tumor blood vessel growth. And finally, the daily habits that strengthen cellular repair. We're going to understand exactly how this disease progresses and learn the evidence-based steps you can take starting right now to protect yourself. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, a breakdown of cellular governance, or what happens when cells stop following instructions. To really demystify this disease, we have to look at what cancer actually is at its most basic cellular level. And honestly, it's simply a massive breakdown of the rules. Think about it like this. Every healthy cell in your body strictly follows 2 governing laws. Number 1, it only divides when it gets an official, authorized signal. And number 2, it undergoes programmed cell death, which we call apoptosis, when it's instructed to do so. It's very orderly. But a cancer cell, it totally ignores this biological programming. It divides without authorization, and it flat out refuses to die on schedule. When you view cancer as a breakdown of this cellular governance, it actually opens up a really rational, logical framework for how we can prevent it. And this brings us to a fascinating concept called epigenetics. This brilliantly illustrates why prevention is so active. We used to think that a DNA mutation was always the starting line, that genetic damage happened first, and then bad cellular behavior just followed. But a massive body of research now shows that changes in the cellular environment, which are totally driven by our metabolic and lifestyle choices, actually happen first. The DNA mutations pile up as a consequence of that bad environment. That is incredibly empowering. It means the conditions that allow cancer to take root are heavily modifiable by the choices we make every single day. Let's move on to Section 2, the 7 stages of progression, the developmental continuity of cancer. We really need to shift our paradigm away from this idea of a sudden, terrifying ambush and understand how this biology actually builds incredibly slowly over time.
Cancer doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It actually advances through a very specific sequence of progressive states. It starts quietly with hyperplasia, where cells are dividing rapidly, but they still look completely normal. Then it shifts to atypical hyperplasia and metaplasia, which is where tissue actually starts changing its identity under environmental stress. The 4th stage is dysplasia, where the cells clearly look abnormal. But listen to this crucial point. Only about 5 to 15% of dysplastic changes progress any further. Your body actively fixes the rest. If it doesn't get corrected, it moves to carcinoma in situ, established but still contained. Then comes invasive cancer, where it breaches its boundaries. And finally, metastatic cancer, traveling through the bloodstream to distant organs. The huge takeaway here? Your body's repair system gets multiple, distinct chances to step in and reverse course before things ever escalate.
So knowing that this is a slow progression, let's dive into Section 3, your built-in defense system and how your body fights back every day. Let's look at the incredible internal infrastructure you have working around the clock to protect you. First up, we have an absolutely amazing protein called p53. In oncology, we literally call this the genome's guardian. It acts like a strict quality control inspector, constantly monitoring your cellular DNA for any signs of damage. If it spots a problem, p53 acts fast. It triggers a temporary pause in the cell's cycle to give it time to repair. And if the damage is just too severe, it forces the cell into apoptosis, that programmed cell death, wiping out the compromised cell before it ever gets a chance to replicate. Working right alongside p53 are your natural killer, or NK cells. These are the immune system's absolute first responders. They're constantly patrolling your body, hunting for cells that are displaying abnormal surface proteins. And what's so cool is they can lock on and destroy these rogue targets immediately, without needing any prior sensitization. But here's the catch. NK cell function is highly sensitive to how you live. To put that into perspective, just a single night of getting only 4 hours of sleep can drastically tank their protective activity. It's a really big deal. Now, cancer cells aren't just sitting ducks. They try to fight back. They exploit something called the Warburg effect. Instead of producing energy normally, cancer cells preferentially ferment glucose, or sugar, into lactic acid. Why does that matter? Because that lactic acid creates a highly acidic, localized environment that acts like a shield. The cancer is actively starving out and neutralizing the exact immune cells, like those natural killer cells, that are trying to destroy it. What this ultimately means is that your robust cellular defense system doesn't just randomly break down. It gets progressively worn out and degraded over time by specific environmental and lifestyle factors. Things like chronic high blood sugar and constantly elevated insulin drive that Warburg effect we just talked about. A deficiency in vitamin D heavily impairs your NK cells. Chronic inflammation creates an environment that basically invites trouble. Add in poor sleep, excess alcohol, and exposure to environmental toxins, and you are actively degrading your body's ability to repair its DNA. Cancer only really emerges when your defenses are chronically overwhelmed.
Let's transition to Section 4, inhibiting tumor blood vessel growth, or starving the supply line. We're going to look at a specific survival tactic that tumors rely on and how we can directly counter it with what we eat every day.
For a tumor to truly establish itself and grow larger than a microscopic dot, it absolutely has to have a blood supply. It gets this through a biological process called angiogenesis. It's basically the tumor recruiting and building brand new blood vessels to feed itself. So logically, if we can stop angiogenesis, we can literally starve the tumor and stop it from expanding.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much power is sitting right there on your dinner plate. We can actually use specific, naturally occurring dietary compounds to block those signaling pathways, stopping those blood vessels from ever forming. We're talking about compounds like sulforaphane, which is highly concentrated in broccoli sprouts, EGC, which you get from green tea, quercetin in onions, allicin in garlic, and anthocyanins in deep-colored berries. These aren't just healthy foods, they are active molecular interventions that dismantle a tumor's infrastructure.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, habits that strengthen cellular repair. It's all about giving your body the tools to win. Let's look at how we can actively empower ourselves through very deliberate, evidence-based daily habits. By actively managing our metabolic health, we basically cut off the primary growth signals that cancer cells love to exploit. You see, insulin is a massively potent growth signal. By lowering your insulin levels, mostly by cutting back on refined carbohydrates and utilizing structured fasting intervals, you literally force cancer cells into a state of stress. Add in regular physical exercise, which is consistently protective because it boosts your insulin sensitivity and directly ramps up that natural killer cell activity. And of course, prioritizing deep, restful sleep ensures your DNA repair processes have the uninterrupted time they absolutely need to do their jobs. Lastly, your biological repair machinery needs actual physical building blocks to work. Making sure you have adequate intake of vitamin D3 along with K2 plus magnesium keeps your immune surveillance perfectly sharp. Magnesium, for example, is a crucial cofactor for your DNA repair enzymes. Zinc keeps your repair proteins structurally sound, and folate and selenium are absolutely vital for DNA methylation and your antioxidant defenses. By keeping these micronutrients topped up, you're making sure your cellular mechanics aren't trying to fix the engine with missing parts.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this empowering thought. Cancer is absolutely terrifying when you view it as some random, unavoidable lightning strike. But it becomes so much less scary when you realize your body does not just passively succumb to disease. Right now, at this exact second, your p53 proteins are checking your DNA and your natural killer cells are out on patrol. Your defense systems are online and working. The only question is, are you making the daily metabolic, nutritional, and lifestyle choices that give your internal repair system the tools it needs to win? Take control of your cellular environment and you take control of your health.